You just contradicted your position. You said, look, he has historic low approval ratings, therefore he's not executing the will of the people. Okay, when Trump ran the first time and the second time, what were the promises that he was making to the people that got him into office, especially his second term, which you can't say that he didn't win the popular vote there.
If we're talking about fulfilling promises, he's failed on almost all of his promises. There's no progress on the border wall. The files have yet to come out.
So, hang on. But these weren't the only things that he promised. And when you're
what were the things that he promised that he has delivered?
Well, let's start with immigration, illegal immigration specifically. Isn't immigration at all-time lows? My name is Andrew Wilson, host of the Crucible, and today we're debating Christian nationalism and how Trump treats the left. I think that Donald Trump is doing his best to execute the will of the people.
So I would say we could just look at his current polling numbers. I think he's sitting at, 34% approval nationwide. If he was executing the will of the people, wouldn't we expect him to have 50, 60+% approval right now?
No. Do you agree with me that there's many presidents who go through high and low times in their various administrations, including Trump in his first administration, went through high and low times, and he was reelected with the popular vote and the electoral vote. His third go around, he was elected, right? So if this is the case, you just pointing to right now he's down in the polls doesn't mean...
But like a historic low. It's not like he's like, oh, he was at 50 and now he's at 43. So it's at he's at
so I want a
the
concession
lowest in
then.
history.
If Trump moves up to a high approval rating, you would then say that he's executing the will of the people?
I mean, I feel like definitionally, yes. I mean, you would have to admit that, but he's not going to do that. He's already the lowest approval rating that he's had, especially with what's going on in regards to the trial.
So when Trump had high approval rating, when he had high approval ratings, you agree he was executing the will of the people?
The will of some people.
Well, then what are you
majority? But not the
what are you talking about?
Not the majority. Like maybe close to it's maybe a 50-50 split. You could say in the beginning, maybe in his first term. But
what you did, you just contradicted your position. You said, look, he has historic low approval ratings, right? Therefore, he's not executing the will of the people. Okay, what about when he had historic high approval ratings?
Are you talking about his first term?
Yeah, is he then executing the will of the people? No. It's so there's no winning there. Okay. And on top of that, with the polling numbers, who cares anyway? Even if I grant it to you, the entire term, his entire first term was low approval numbers, and his entire second term.
Well, if we're not using poll numbers or any kind of if you don't believe in poll numbers, how are we to track whether or not he is doing what the people want? If the people say he's not doing what we want, therefore we
can judge it like this. We can make comparative judgments. Let me explain what I mean by this. When Trump ran to get into office the first time and the second time, right? What were the promises that he was making to the people that got him into office, especially his second term, which you can't say that he didn't win the popular vote there.
If we're talking about fulfilling promises, he's failed on almost all of his promises. There's no progress on the border wall. The files have yet to come out.
So hang on. But these weren't the only things that he promised. And when
what were the things that he promised that he has delivered?
Well, let's start with immigration, illegal immigration specifically. Isn't immigration at all-time lows, illegal immigration? And isn't Trump signaling that the country is not open for business? One of the primary reasons he was put in office. Isn't he doing everything he possibly can to remove illegals out of here? In fact, it's so over the top.
Executive
in
order.
Fact, it's so over the top that you guys are protesting ICE going in and removing illegal immigrants from places they're not supposed to be.
It'd be one thing if he did it through some kind of piece of legislation, but he's doing it all via executive order. So let's say people get sick of Trump next, Biden, if he's still around, comes back in, then he can just repeal it all.
Is the president,
he's not creating a foundational,
what's the president's job? Isn't he the chief law enforcement officer of the United States? Isn't his job to execute the laws of the United States?
Yes.
Constitutionally, that's what he's supposed to do, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's executing
the laws. Well, he's not doing it constitutionally.
That is constitutional.
He has several court cases against him.
And he has several court cases like today where the lower court got overruled by the higher court, which is what happens constantly. Okay, so here's what happens.
Well, the Supreme Court has already found
that it's perfectly acceptable for him to deport people to whatever country he wants. That's what they found.
No, that is not what they found.
Yeah, it is what they found.
Are you talking about the 9-0 decision?
Yeah, here's what we've seen from Trump as the executive of law enforcement. What he has done is he has mobilized ICE, which he has total authority to do. He sent them where the illegals are, which he was supposed to do. That's what we asked him to do. And he's deporting their asses, and he's signaling we're not open for business anymore. He's literally doing exactly what we put him there to do.
Okay, so even if I grant you that, which already there's so many problems in terms of how he's going about it. One of the important
problems
things
that you have, not problems we have,
Fair
not problems
enough.
the people have.
Fair enough. If you're just fine with him just going, point blank.
Yeah, I'm fine with him using his executive
legislation, just bypassing.
He's following the systems that are in place. He's the executive law enforcement officer. He's allowed to mobilize. You know what else? He's allowed to mobilize the Marines. He's allowed to send the Marines in to quell riots. He's allowed.
Express authority from the governor.
Do you know when the last time was that a governor said, no, you can't deploy the National Guard, and the president did it anyway?
I believe that was under, I think it was Eisenhower when they sent the kids to Little Rock. But that was because they had, the governor was defying a court order.
Oh, wait a second. So he doesn't need the express permission of the governor?
When he's in defiance of, when the governor's in defiance of court, what court order was issued against California?
You don't need a court order.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
You can if a governor is defiant. This is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States military. The National Guard is not the governor's. The governor gets to deploy them for state issues, but they are federal troops still. They can be federalized at a moment's notice and sent anywhere the president. Anywhere the president wants.
And procedure.
What does commander-in-chief means? What does it mean?
He's the head of the armed forces. Sure,
and
you got
unilateral control.
He doesn't have unilateral control to interfere with states' abilities.
He does.
He's completely violating states' rights by doing so. If you even care about states' rights, he's doing the exact opposite of that.
Yeah,
you claim to be a proponent of states' rights. He's violating them all the time.
No, he's not violating.
He violates all kinds of state rights daily.
Let's go through it.
In terms of him violating state rights, he said that when New York wanted to place that traffic thing in Manhattan, he said he would go in and remove that. That's completely outside of his purview.
Did he?
The fact that he even threatened it is ridiculous.
The fact that he even threatened it. Did he do it?
Not that I'm aware of.
And when he sent in, where's the court order saying that he's not allowed to send the troops into California? Nowhere. And let me tell you another thing that's really funny about this. Congress has the power of the purse. Now, they gave that power up because they're stupid, right? Let other people coin money instead of them, which is also stupid. But they are the ones who get to defund, right? That's what they do.
Yeah,
so if it's the case that Donald Trump's using the military in a way that he's not supposed to be using it, that's up to Congress to defund whatever it is that he's doing. He, as the commander-in-chief, can send the Marine Corps in when he wants.
He's already said before that he's willing to defy court orders. He's willing to go against Congress. His administration is already getting.
He can't go against it. Do you know what funding means?
Well, he can try to say, "Oh, we're not going to give up any funding. We're just going to keep it."
He can't unilaterally do that. They have the power of the purse.
Well, he'll try.
He'll try. When has he tried it? When has he gone to Congress and been like, no, actually, the presidency has the power of the purse, and we're going to fund the military even if you don't want to.
I mean,
it's never happened, dude.
When Border, basically when they ran out of money within the first 90 days of his presidency, he basically forced them to give them more money. He basically
how do you force the Congress to give them more money?
Well, he got all.
Did he send in the troops with machine guns and said, "Give them the money or else"?
No, he didn't. But he did a completely. He basically gave a blank check to the Border Patrol.
He has the power to do that. Congress.
I thought you said Congress had the. You're saying Trump has the power.
Who authorized the funds for the Border Patrol?
Technically, yes, Congress. Did that.
Anything else?
All right, fair enough. But the thing is, okay, so other than Border, what else has he delivered on in his presidency that he promised besides Border? And again,
glad you asked. He says English is going to be the language of the nation, something that has been demanded by people for years and years and years. He gave an executive order.
Do you have any just
English only.
Is that any kind of popular? I haven't seen. I could be. I'm willing to be wrong, but is there any kind of polling data on people?
Listen,
who
he made this promise when he was running for office that he was going to make this executive order, and he was elected.
Listen, if I find a group of 20 people and I do what they say and be like, "Look, I'm following the will of these 20 people," I mean, that doesn't really
following the will of the majority of the electorate who put you there.
Well, I was just about to ask: do you have evidence that the majority of the electorate
he got elected?
Do you have
on these promises by the majority of the electorate? So yes.
Is there any polling? People said, we want you to make this.
He got elected by the majority of the electorate.
Just because Okay.
Am I speaking Spanish
no,
here? That's
you're
why
not.
English needs to be the language of the nation.
Okay, I'm just saying he doesn't do it under the appropriate channels. He's trying to basically...
What inappropriate channels? Congress has the purse. They can defund the military anytime they want, right? They can defund various activities he does anytime that they want. They are the ones who appropriate funds. Congress appropriates the cash.
Well, do you have
the president executes the laws of the nation.
Okay, just in terms of like the language thing, do you have any evidence, like, and I'm willing to be proven wrong on this, that the majority of Americans wanted English as like the first language
I'm gonna speak really slowly here. Trump promised that when he in office, he make executive.
So if he just makes a random promise,
I'm gonna
and
finish.
then people, you say,
the
people did it.
I'm gonna
The people
finish.
did it.
I'm gonna finish. He promised executive order when he get office. He get office majority of electorate. Therefore, majority of people seem to want him to do thing. See how that works?
Well, people could want him to do. People wanted him to release the files, and he hasn't done that yet.
That's true. I don't like how Trump handled the thing, but that has nothing to do with whether or not he's executing the will of the people.
One thing that may or may not be.
Don't you think that people who get elected into office make primary promises and then subsequent promises? Like they have a tier of promises. They have a tier of things which people are putting them into office to do. Some are more important than other things. You agree, right?
Yeah.
The primary thing for Trump was always immigration. It was always about immigration. That's where his administration has spent most of its focus.
But it's not permanent. It's going to be repealed
So
in the next administration.
That doesn't mean he's not executing the will of the people.
But if he doesn't do it through anything that lasts...